Propagator, MIKKO KOTILA.
Hello. Thank you very much for joining and still staying here after lunch. That is very courteous of you. I will get started here. So I decided to replace my personal introduction with a photo of something that should be familiar to all of us, because all of us are coming from something like that emerged in this planet about 4.5 billion years ago. And I use this as an example of how everything is possible. So if we came out of this, then every problem is solvable. And here are some of the companies and organizations that I started or I'm in the board of. And now we're going to talk some business. So I want to start about talking a little bit about what is data science, just so I make sure we're talking about the same thing. Data science is actually a game of moving from pure luck to pure skill by the power of computing. And there are really two different kinds of data science, and most of the world is focused on this external aspect of data science, which is really finding order in chaos. And these are typically zero-sum games, for media, for finance, and so on. And there is usually very finite potential. What I'm more interested with is internal data science, where we are finding chaos in order. And I'll give some examples about that in a bit. And we are typically playing positive-sum games, and we have typically infinite potential for impact. And internal data science is really about organizing things, arranging bits, code, software, all the way to the machines and grids. And it's really about two things. It's about achieving as much computational throughput with as little money and as little energy as possible. But what's making this difficult is all these rainbow pooping unicorns running in the cloud. And also big data is making it more difficult. And I think I can summarize big data and cloud into two letters, IT. So when IT wasn't so sexy anymore, the big consultancy and the big IT, they came up with these two very catchy words, big data and cloud. And now everybody's happy again, especially big IT. So what I want you to think about something. We've all heard about Moore's law, and we all know how cheap storage is, but did you know that cost of energy actually doubles every 10 years? And while Moore's law still holds true, the energy efficiency aspect doesn't. So Moore's law in that sense is already broke. And what's on the bottom here more than negates what's on the top. So this illusion of scale that cloud gives us is not really there. And with Internet of Things coming into play, Gartner expects there that DC energy consumption will dramatically increase in the very near future, which could boost the energy cost even further. And really the dark horse is bandwidth. I think everybody here who plays with scale knows that bandwidth is where most of the money goes, and actually bandwidth is the biggest problem we have with scale right now. Nobody, Amazon, the academia, the big IT, nobody knows how to really solve it. We're about 5 years from meeting the place first time where we have more demand than we have supply for bandwidth. And undersea cables are not that easy to replace, and they're very near to the maximum light speed already, about 80%. So we really literally don't have a solution for bandwidth, and that's going to come down to us in a couple of years, and that could cost a lot for those systems that are already running inefficiently. So big data is really about storing and processing and moving a lot of data for a long time. Data is not value, data is cost, and data is also risk. But most importantly, now we're talking about the aspect of cost, data being cost. So big data means big cost, means big bucks for the big IT, and means big cost for us. So what this represents here is a block of data stored for 1 year. what this represents is that same block of data stored for 1 second, which is often enough to get the value, the logic, or the probability out of that data. And it's so small that now it's 20,000 times magnified. So there you can visually establish how huge the difference in dollars is for storing data. So I want to introduce you to thinking what we call just enough data. So we really do what is enough. We don't need big data, we need just enough data. And this is really coming from Toyotas and others who moved into just enough manufacturing when they started to realize that this senseless pumping of things wasn't the best thing to do. So I want to show a few practical examples what we've done with this kind of thinking. So first, hello world. Every programmer starts by learning to print hello world on the screen. So if you write in C, hello world, to the screen, you're using a library called string. So this is the example code. This is the example code to do the exactly same thing without string. It turns out it's 30 times faster, 30 times cheaper, but you only need 30% more code. So now my favorite question in an interview for a developer is, here's pen and paper, write a piece of C code to show how you do it without string. And this guy actually missed one of the letters, but otherwise his way was ingenious. Here what we did, we were doing an n-gram analysis for about 2 million domain names. This was our first media planning tool for programmatic media. And the data was originally about 100 megabytes with a very simple trick of just converting data into this proprietary binary structure. We were able to take that data, that same kind of logic and probability, the n-gram logic, we were able to reduce the data 130-fold without losing any of the logic there. So now if you start to multiply these things, 30 times from writing better code, 130 from reducing the data size, we're talking about thousands of X already. And it's not just storage cost. Storage cost often means processing cost, availability cost, transfer cost, and energy cost. And if you think you don't have to worry about energy because you're in the cloud, what do you think Amazon is doing with their energy bill? They're putting it into your cloud cost, of course. So this is very simple stuff. That's the smallest logic unit, AND gate, this is an AND gate. So actually we were able to reduce this into 1 bit, and then we came up with ways how to reduce it even further. When we started to really look at deeper, once we had come up with this kind of fundamental findings that we could make things thousands of times leaner, cheaper, more efficient, faster, we started to look at these components and realize Apache was a huge problem. So I suggest to you to consider your relationship with Apache or the alternatives Node.js and Nginx. We found that the best way for very specific problems is to build very specific solutions. TCP/IP, we turned out that it's even bigger problem and almost everybody's using it. Then we went even deeper and we looked at Linux and we realized that Linux is actually really the big problem because it's a generic purpose tool, and most of the business cases, especially in big data, are not generic purpose at all. They're often about repeating the same thing maybe 100,000 times a second, 24/7, 365. So I'm not saying Linux, TCP/IP, Apache are bad, but they're not made for the big data industry, for the just enough data industry. So supercomputers run on Linux. 96.4% of the top 500 supercomputers run on Linux. So actually this particular problem is really dragging down the progress of humanity. And if you want to learn more about something like this, we have this wonderful club called the 10x Computer Club, and we have a blog where we talk about these kinds of things. And now I want to share with you really what I'm here, why I'm here. So that was just the tip of the pyramid and a tip of the iceberg. And what's below there really interests me. And I believe that that's the next $10 trillion economic opportunity for the brands of the world. And it's a way for governments to stay in power in a meaningful way. And that's really the bottom of the pyramid. So I'll give you an example. This is the logo of Pink Army. And what we did in less than a year, we went from realizing that rural women of India, hundreds of millions of women, didn't have access to standardized health information, often didn't have any access to health information. And we realized if we give them devices, that's not going to work. There's too many of them. Their husband is going to take it, sell it, drink, and do whatever. So we identified that there were these health women, each of them contacting up to 1,000 rural women. And in less than a year, we were able to get the government to sign up on this project and produce. Now they've already ordered 1,500 of these, so we're reaching already 1 million rural women with standardized UNICEF content. And now this project came from not even having the idea to having these devices on the ground, and now our partners, government partners, picking up awards. This is the chief minister of the state of Gujarat in less than a year. Most commercial startups don't get anything done in 1 year. We actually came to impact the lives of 1 million women in that time. And now we've already got an order from them to modernize the health monitoring in schools. There is 700,000 rural schools in India, and actually just today I got the confirmation they approved our prototype, so we're looking at rolling out our health kiosk concept in 350 rural schools, and yes, the total potential is 700,000 schools there. Finally, the last thing that I'll share with you today is we're starting a project using UAVs and tethered balloons, looking at what the American Army is doing in their forward operating bases, and we're doing this over a long period of time to identify causal relationships related to the movement of people, the crops, the animals in these villages, rural villages, so we can build actual attribution models, economic models that we can then help, we can then use to help NGOs do their work better on the ground. So just as a final word, you are technologists, I hope, so I want you to think about the impact of your work. The impact is not in your innovation, it's in the context of where you put it, and that should be a key part of your innovation. And that will lead you, these kind of problems will lead you to the wonderful world of positive sum games where your win doesn't come from the back of somebody else. And finally, just like this body where this tattoo is actually printed on, we will all die one day. And that day may become fast. So while we are here and while we are enjoying this miracle of life, spurring out of that magical single cell organism long ago, we should use it. We should use it well. So what I want you to consider is how you are using it, and maybe this side, I ask you to go there, maybe this side will help you to stimulate your thinking. And I want to thank you very much. I went 2 minutes over, but I hope you don't mind.